Hi and welcome. We're going to be diving deeper into regiments, looking at some of the units and mechanics in this game. So the first matchup we're going to look at here is the T80 BV versus the Leopard 2A4. Now, the T80 BV is the second best Soviet tank, second to the up-armored T80 UD. The Leopard 2A4 is going to be your best tank that the West Germans have. It's an improved version of the Leopard 2A1, and far superior to the Belgian Leopards and the Leopard 1s that the Germans will also have. First thing to look at, if we're looking at a range of 1,500 meters, um, so we're going to start kind of a standard distance. Pretty rare you'll have sight lines all the way out to 2,400 meters to engage at the maximum range. The Leopard has superior armor all around except for the side armor, and it's only a difference of one. The Leopard also has more main ammo and better vision. So at those longer ranges, the Leopard's advantage is going to be even bigger. It also has an accuracy of 75 and better stabilizers. So it's going to hit more often whether it is on the move or sitting still. Where it loses out slightly is the reaction and rate of fire, but I think those are more than made up for with the better range and accuracy. It also has better penetration on the main gun round versus the T80 BV. So if we're looking at 1,500 meters, um, it's going to be in range for both units. Um, both units should be able to see each other, and only the T80 has an ATGM. But once you get inside ATGM range, inside the main gun range, they're going to switch to that main gun and start using that instead. So where it comes down to it is the penetration difference. The penetration score versus the armor, and these are for frontal hits. I just wanted to look at the front armor, not worrying about the turret or side armor. If you get a side shot on a tank with a main battle tank, it's going to penetrate. So it doesn't really matter there as much. The penetration value for the main gun versus the Leopard's armor, the T80 is going to have trouble penetrating the Leopard. Um, and here is the modified damage score. This is based on estimates from what we've seen in the regiment's Regipedia and also collected elsewhere. Um, the estimated damage output based on the penetration value versus the armor. I have it in a table here. Um, if it's down to -3, so the penetration value is 3 less than the armor value, you're going to get about 0%. We saw Soundwolf say that in some cases there will be some damage. I haven't found the exact values for that yet, but it's going to be low. Um, all the way up to 95% chance of, I believe it might be a chance of a critical hit. So I'm using this as a modifier for damage to try to estimate exactly how that's going to work. But you're not going to find exact mathematical formulas here. I haven't been able to get into the game form files to find those. Um, so take these modified values for what you will. It's kind of an estimated chance of um, a critical hit. So at 1,500 meters, the T80 is going to have trouble penetrating the Leopard, but the Leopard will have no trouble and has higher accuracy. So when we look at that modified damage here, um, the Leopard's going to be doing 3 to 4 times more damage than the T80. So if you are in the Leopard, if you can close to that 1,500 meters, you'll be set. If we extend that out to 2,400 meters, um, the T80 is going to have even more trouble penetrating the Leopard, and the Leopard should still be just fine, able to penetrate the T80. Now, where it gets a little different here is if we get out to 2,800 meters. Out to 2,800 meters, the Leopard can't engage. Neither of them are in gun range. Um, but the or call it 2,700 meters, so we're inside the range. But the T80 can engage with ATGMs, and it has the Cobra tank launched ATGM, 75% accuracy, and 18 penetration. So it still is going to have trouble penetrating the Leopard, but it's able to do some damage while the Leopard is not able to fire back at that range. And one thing we'll see is kind of a theme throughout here is the Soviets, their tanks generally have inferior vision. You can see the 1890 versus 2100. advanced versus thermal night vision, so whether it's a day or a night battle, the Soviets are going to need scouts to be able to see. The next matchup is we're going to look at the some of the top of the line tanks on each side. We're going to go up to the T80 UD for the Soviet side versus the M1A1 Abrams. Now, this is not the absolute top of the line tank for the US, but it's the one you're going to see more commonly, especially in the campaigns. At the 2400-meter range, both of them are going to be in gun range. Neither of them are going to be in vision range. And the penetration is exactly equal. Accuracy is exactly equal. So who's going to have the advantage here? It depends. If they're both moving, the M1 has better stabilized fire. If they're both stationary, the T80 has better accuracy or better reaction and rate of fire. And in this time period, most Soviet tanks have autoloaders. Most American tanks do not. So the Soviet tanks are able to run with a lighter crew, but the autoloaders have some of their own issues with survivability. The M1 has slightly better penetration, but then for frontal armor, the T80 has slightly better front armor. Now, if we go down to like 2,000 meters, the M1 will be able to see the T80, but the T80 will not be able to see the M1. So again, they need scouts on the Soviet side to be able to effectively engage the NATO tanks at range. And again, if you go out past 2,400 meters, neither of them are in gun range, but the T80 can fire ATGM. So you can, for the Soviets, they either want to stay outside of 2,400 meters where they can engage with ATGMs, or close the gap and get inside that 1890 range where they have vision. And to engage effectively with the ATGM, you're going to need scouts. You have to have either your infantry up closer or your scout units up closer who can see better. The next one, we're going to look at the T80 UD versus the real top of the line American tank, which is the M1A1 HA. And this has improved armor throughout. So really across the board, everything else is the same, but now it out armors the T80 as well. And if you look at it from 2,400 meters, where before it was even, the M1 now has a penetration advantage. The armor is equal for the T80 shooting at the M1, but for the M1 shooting at the T80, that now has a better chance at penetrating, and we're going to see some better damage as well. And another thing is that the ATGM is now -2 penetration difference. So the M1A1s can really sit there and soak up the ATGMs. And the only thing they really have to worry about is if you close in, say to 1,500 meters, then you start seeing the T80s be able to penetrate. Because with every 400 meters you close, kinetic energy rounds, like the, where is it here? The armor-piercing, fin-discarding Sabo rounds that almost all of the main battle tanks use, they gain 1 point of penetration for every 400 meters below max range. So with both tanks, it's 2,400 meters. So at 2,000, they get an extra point. At 1,600, they get an extra point. So the T80 is going to want to close that gap and be able to penetrate more versus the M1A1. And the last one I wanted to look at is the T80 versus the M1 improved protection. And this is an earlier Abrams, so it has less armor, and it also has a 105 millimeter cannon, so it's got less penetration, and really across the board inferior. Where before the M1s could stack up for the ammo type, it's now lighter armored and able to penetrate less. If we look at 2,400 meters max range, the M1 just really can't penetrate the T80 UD. -3, that basically kills your chance at a critical hit. You're not going to be doing much damage at all. And the T80 can penetrate at that range. You'll want to really close quick so that the M1 can start to penetrate the T80. At 1600, it starts to get closer, but really at down to 1200, that's when the advantage starts to flip. Um, and you can see that the way that M1's going to win is the rate of fire. 9 shots a minute versus 7 for the T80. So they've got to get in close to start doing damage. Although at this point the T80 is going to really tear through their armor. With a 5 penetration difference, the M1's not going to be able to stand up long. So yeah, let me know below if you like this video. If there are other tanks you want to take a look at, I'm going to take a look in the future at some of the British tanks, um, some of the Belgian forces, and also some of the recon light tanks. There's some really cool light tanks in the Belgian and British forces that I'd like to show off and how to really use those effectively based on the stats in the game. Thanks again for listening. Hope you have a great night.